the story, the fairy tale, the myth, the legend of Brock Purdy. How do you see it in your eyes?
Well, what we're doing is we're dividing this topic in half. One
Yes.
is there's already a mythology that's growing up around him, and we want to discuss that. And then the other is let's try to analyze the reality and what we can realistically expect from him.
Yes.
I'd like to start by saying that you've twice here and on another broadcast called him King Arthur. And unless you're familiar with that myth, it's one of the greatest myths going, and certainly one of the greatest in English literature. King Arthur was just a kid. He was a nobody, and nobody expected him to be the king of England and head of the Round Table.
Would you call him Mr. Irrelevant?
I love it. He was Mr. Irrelevant.
Okay.
So the myth was that there was this sword in this lake, and if anyone who could pull it out would be the next king of England. And all the great knights went and couldn't do it. And then this kid who was Mr. Irrelevant just pulled it out because he was anointed by God or whoever. And he pulled out Excalibur, and that showed that he was the anointed and he would be the next Tom Brady, Joe Montana, but more, because he would be the God's anointed king of England. So what Iggy is saying is this is kind of like the myth of King Arthur, that all of a sudden this kid and the other version of that myth is King David in the Bible, when they were fighting Samson of the Philistines, the giant, and no one could compete with him. And then David, he was a shepherd.
Goliath.
I said Samson. I'm
Goliath.
sorry. Samson was a Jewish. You're right. Goliath. And he got, a slingshot, and he killed him. And then he became the anointed of God. So it's the same story all over again in a different version. And now there's this Brock Purdy stuff, and I'm even susceptible to it myself.
Because it feels like the story is that he pulled out Excalibur last week. He beat the freaking Dolphins. Mr. Irrelevant beat the Dolphins. He took down Goliath. He pulled out Excalibur. He's the chosen one right now. That's sort of like the world we're living in.
Absolutely. And what I want to add, it's a nice world.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
The mythology that in a couple of days has grown up around Brock Purdy is fantastic. Yes. And I think the Niners season just became more interesting.
Way more interesting
because even if this kid doesn't turn out to be, King David or King Arthur, he certainly gave us a thrill. And he can do some things better than Jimmy, and perhaps better than Trey Lance, because we don't know about Trey Lance. But Iggy, I saw him sprint to the right and throw on the run.
He dodged a couple blitzers. That Jimmy would have sacked Jimmy. No question.
Yes. And then
made the throw on the run that Jimmy couldn't make. Sorry.
That's right. So he did two things. And I was looking at this and thinking, this is fantastic. What new life that he's brought. And, I felt his teammates responded better to him than they did to Trey Lance when he was on the field. I thought they bought into him. I mean, some of the guys with Trey Lance wouldn't even help him up.
That's true. And what I was trying to show you with that clip with Brandon Ayuk is almost seems like they're more bought into Purdy than they were with Jimmy. Now, I know some of the vets are very bought into Jimmy, but those are guys that have been with him for 5 years. Look at Ayuk. I've never heard him talk like that about Jimmy Garoppolo. All of a sudden, he's Brock Purdy's biggest fan. He's giving stories about Brock. He just talked to me. It seems like people are really into Brock Purdy. I'm just saying.
So what I want to say is, for 49ers fans, this is a fabulous story.
Yeah.
And if this kid can continue and bring them deep into the playoffs or even into the Super Bowl, this is one of the greatest 49ers seasons, would be one of the greatest 49ers seasons ever. And that's part of the mythology. But Iggy is already giggling.
No, you undersold it. You undersold it. I mean, like, if he wins the Super Bowl, he'd be the first rookie ever to win a Super Bowl. He'd be the last pick in the draft. I mean, it would be the greatest story ever. I mean, it would one up Tom Brady. Tom Brady was the second-year guy who was the 6th-round pick, and that's part of Bill Belichick's lore is that he won all these Super Bowls with a quarterback that no one thought was good. Well, Kyle could one up that this year with a rookie who was the last pick in the draft. I mean, we'd have to call him a genius after that.
In addition, let's not go to New England. It would one up Joe Montana.
It would.
Bill and
It would
Joe,
one up all-
because
Yep.
Joe was a 3rd-round pick.
And in his 3rd year in the league. In his 3rd year in the league when he won the Super Bowl.
That's right. It was his 3rd year. And also, he had been the quarterback at Notre Dame.
Right.
Which is different from Iowa State.
Correct. Yes.
So this would be right. This might be the greatest story in the history of the NFL. We're dealing with King David and we're dealing with King Arthur, and we're having a blast. And to tell you the truth, I'm on this kid's side.
How could you not be on Brock Purdy's side? I mean, here's the thing. If he were a 1st-round pick, it would be a whole different conversation. But he was the last pick in the draft. He's impossible not to pull for. Impossible.
And Iggy, I watch on television the post-game press conference.
Yeah.
To me, because I'm an old man, he looked like a teenager.
Yeah. I'm 34 and he looked like a teenager.
He looked like the guy who you say, "Would you clean my cleats for me? They're getting a little muddy. I have to go out on the next series and play." Yes. He looked like one of those kids.
So you can understand why he was still available in the last pick of the draft. I mean, that's not a mystery. But when you watch him play, you can also see that he was a 4-year starter in college, which is rare. He plays. He doesn't play like a rookie. At least he didn't in this game. And you think, well, he's never played on a team this good with this defense and all these weapons. He might just be the one rookie who could pull this off in the history of the NFL. Very interesting.
And I'm rooting for him.
Yeah,
I'm rooting
why
for
not?
him because his story is so great.